What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA Saturday, September 12th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, let's take a look at this NBA showdown between the Houston Rockets and the LA Lakers. So just like last video, I'm not going to go through the top 4 studs with you. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, all of those guys are great plays, averaging 50 fantasy points or more, outside of Russell Westbrook, who scored 42 fantasy points last game, 55 the game before that, and 31 the game before that. But Russell Westbrook is projected at 44.5 fantasy points here tonight, so that puts him on par with the other studs because he's lower salary than those guys. So all 4 of those guys are great plays. Pick your stud. Now let's move on to some of the lower salary players. I like Rajon Rondo from the LA Lakers playing the Houston Rockets, who have the 6th worst defense overall and they're middle of the pack defending opposing point guards. Rajon Rondo has averaged 18.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 21 minutes per game with a 19% usage rate. But you got playoff Rondo here. He scored 38, 37, and 41 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 28, 30, and 28 minutes. He's projected at 32.1 fantasy points here tonight. I think that's a fair projection. You could bump him up to 35 fantasy points, but I mean, he's been playing out of his mind the last 3 games. But this is what you get with Rondo in the playoffs. Vegas thinks there's going to be 215.5 points scored in this game, so I like Rajon Rondo here versus the Houston Rockets. Okay, the other player that I like is Robert Covington from the Houston Rockets playing the LA Lakers, who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing power forwards. Robert Covington has averaged 29.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 17% usage rate. He was doing really well, scoring 30 plus fantasy points in almost every game that he played, but he's only scored 13, 31, and 26 fantasy points in the last 3 games. But I'm expecting a bounce back game here for Robert Covington. He's projected at 29.7 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Robert Covington here versus the LA Lakers. Real quick guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the position optimizer where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new player trends tool where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Another player that I like is Eric Gordon from the Houston Rockets playing the LA Lakers, who have a good defense overall, but they give up the 11th most fantasy points to opposing small forwards. Eric Gordon has averaged 20.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 28 minutes per game with a 23% usage rate. He scored 26, 17, and 29 fantasy points in the last 3 games, and he's playing 34, 36, and 36 minutes. So solid minutes. His production has fallen off a little bit. I'm hoping that he rebounds here and scores over 30 fantasy points, but he's projected at 24.6 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Eric Gordon here versus the LA Lakers. So a couple of value plays for you. If you're looking for a value play on the LA Lakers, take a look at Markieff Morris. playing the Houston Rockets, who have the 6th worst defense overall, and they give up the 5th most fantasy points to opposing small forwards. Markieff Morris has averaged 17.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 20 minutes per game with a 20% usage rate. He scored 13, 12, and 22 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 22, 23, and 22 minutes. So the minutes aren't too bad there, 22 to 23 minutes. So if he could get you around 20 fantasy points, that would be an excellent value play. Now he's only projected at 14 fantasy points here tonight, but he's got that 20 plus fantasy point upside. He can get it done for you. And he's a low salary player here. So this is a play that's going to allow you to fit some of those studs in, 2 of those studs in without having to drop down into these mid-range plays too much. So I like Markieff Morris here versus the Houston Rockets. And the other value play that I like here is Austin Rivers from the Houston Rockets playing the LA Lakers, who have a good defense overall, and they've been middle of the pack defending opposing point guards. Austin Rivers has averaged 16.2 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 23 minutes per game with a 16% usage rate. Now, this pick is just hoping that he's going to be able to match or come close to the production that he had last game. He had 28 fantasy points in 27 minutes, but he really hasn't been playing much or hasn't been productive in the games before last game. He had a 21% usage rate last game, so this is a risky pick, but he's low salary. I think he's a great GPP play, a great tournament play. He's projected at 18 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Austin Rivers here versus the LA Lakers. If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.